Hey, what's going on? I know I promised you I would do the frequency separation demo with you, and that way maybe you get an idea how it works and why I use it and how you could use it possibly. I figured I'd use the image that I edited of you last night because I'm still kind of working on the one from today. But yeah, let me flip over to Photoshop, and actually before I do that, let me explain to you what's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the background layer or the base layer, or if you've got a bunch of stuff, merge everything together and have a starting point. From there, I'm going to make two copies. First one is going to be called the low layer. Second one's going to be called the high layer. And that's really just because one is the color tones, which is the low layer, and the high layer is just the detail layer. And then you're going to blend them using a couple of blending modes. So let me pop in Photoshop and I'll show you how that works. If I can find out where my mouse is. There it is. Alright, here we are in Photoshop. So I've already done the example so you can see it before. Let me zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Alright, that's out of Lightroom. So there's a lot of detail been added to your face because I wanted to add it to the photo. But this is after frequency separation. I was able to preserve a lot of the detail in your face. I didn't make it look all smooth and that blurred look that, novice players, novice photoshoppers tend to do. So let me run through what I did. So have the background copy or a merged copy of all the layers, depending on how you'd like to do it. I usually do it as the first thing I do when I pop into Photoshop. I'm going to copy the layer twice. I'm going to rename the first layer low, just LO. And the second layer, I'm going to rename high, HI. I'm going to turn off the first layer. And I hope you can see this over in the layer panel over here. But I'm going to go to Filter. I'm going to go to Blur. Go down to Gaussian Blur. And I'm going to blur it. And like I said, anywhere between 3 and about 8. 8 kind of does too much. What I'm looking for is just getting rid of the details. I don't want to get rid of the changes in the tone. Like, see right here, you have, there's a dark mark here from the makeup, and then the light part. I want to keep that. But if I go too low, you can see all the little specks and dots and blemishes or whatnot. So I want to keep it up. I think this one I did at about 3.5, something like that. I'm going to say okay, and then I'm going to forget about that layer. Right now, I'm not worried about it. Next, I'm going to turn on the high layer, which will bring back everything. I'm going to go to Image. I'm going to go down to Apply Image. I'm going to click here. You've got Layer. You want to make sure it's merged. Channel. Actually, I take it back. Channel, you want it to be RGB. And Merge. Oh. What am I doing? Yeah, Merged, you want it to be, in this case, low. I have those of my other ones that I've already edited. I'll show it in a second here. But, yeah, you want to go to low. Okay? You want to come down here to subtract. And now see, I have it scaled to offset 128. Yours might be different. Photoshop has different defaults for this. But what you're looking for to get is this sort of high pass look is what they call it, where you can see just the details. If you actually go over, I'm going to say okay to this, and I'll show you. Let me turn these off. Let me make a copy of this layer again. The high pass layer, and you can do this with high pass. I know some people that do. I don't prefer it, but if you go to other high pass, it kind of is doing the same thing. You pop it down to like 3.4, 3.5. It is essentially the same thing. I know some people that prefer one method over the other. To me, I've been doing this high-low method using Apply Image for probably a decade now. So it's a tried and true method. But the key to this, once you have it here, is you go to your blending mode and you go down to linear light. And now, if I group these two layers, we're going to get rid of that copy that I don't need. You can see absolutely nothing has happened. However, something big did happen. I separated the detail layer, as you see there, and the tones layer, or the color layer. And that way, when I go to edit, I can edit specifically just your skin tone and then later fix any blemishes or pimples, moles, whatever freckles you don't want, whatever is not needed for the character or in general. So what I do, everybody does it a little different. What I prefer to do, because I like, I tend to overdo things, so I like having a way to go back. So I'll make a copy of the low layer, and I'll rename it Low Edit. And this is the one I'm going to be editing on. I do not touch the original, and technically if you wanted to, you can go ahead and lock it just in case. I don't really bother with that, but if you feel more comfortable with it, go for it. The second thing I do is I make a copy also. Another thing I do put a mask on my low edit, just in case I want to blend some back from the original. The high edit, I do the same thing, except you got to do something a little bit different. Because if I make a copy of the high layer, like I did with the low layer, you double the detail. We don't want that. That's way too much. So what you do, you bring it back to the normal mode. So you get this high pass look, and just clip it. Whoops. Yeah, there we go. Clip it to the high layer. It does the exact same thing, but because the blending mode that's being used, the only way it works. And again, I put a mask on that. Now I go ahead and I do my edits. I normally start on my low, because the details, you're not usually going to get rid of a whole lot of details. What you're wanting to do is smooth the skin, but preserve the details. So, my technique for this, and everybody has something different. Some people will put an extra layer in between and actually color pick. Grab my pen here. Color pick, say, this area with a low opacity of, let's say, let's go like a 5 and a flow of 10. Something like that. And they'll color pick this area right here. And then they're just trying to start blending in like this. Let me turn it up a little bit more so you can see. Let's go to like a 10. There we go. You can see, you can just paint away all these areas, and maybe I go higher. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. And I can just kind of start painting away and kind of match a tone that I like. There are some that do it. A lot of retailers do it. I have a buddy of mine who swears by this method, but it's a method that works. The one that I tend to do is get rid of that layer. I use the Lasso Tool, and I set the feather to about 10 pixels. You can change this, whatever you want, 5, 3, 20, whatever works for you, whatever the image is calling for. Your face isn't big in the photo. It's not the main focus on it. So I'm not worried about going to the 20 pixels or something like that. Oops. Yeah. All right. So zooming back into your face here again. Dealing with, we'll just say this blemish. I'll go ahead and circle lasso this area. I don't have to be too precise, so I'm not too worried about that. And I'll go to filter. Whoops. Filter. And I'll go back into my Gaussian blur, but I'm going to go this way. And I usually use exactly what I blurred the face with to begin with. So I'll put a 3.5. I like a round number. And click OK. Now, that can get kind of tedious. So what I did, and I'll do that many times if I need to on one area. But what I did was I added a key command of Control B for that. And you can do that by simply going to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, and go to Application menu, come all the way down here to Filter, click on the tab there, and then come all the way down to Blurs. And then just click on it, make your own. And if it's okay if it's some other tool that you use or don't use that much that already has a key command to it, just say accept and it'll forget that. But double check and make sure that it's gone for that tool. It'll tell you below when you click on it. So I'll go ahead and I'll hit Control B. I'll like it, and then I'll just hit, for me, that's the other command that I use, because the newer Photoshops, in like CC 2015, 2018, all the way up to 2019, one of the big things is they removed, where is it? To redo the same filter, they made a Control Shift F or Command Shift F on a Mac. I personally prefer it as just Command F, so you'll have to go into the keyboard shortcuts and fix that. But anyway, so I'll hit Command F a few times, And I'll try to hit the most broad areas that I like. You know, trying to fix as much tones as possible, then I'll go a little bit more exact. You can see it clears up. It looks like it's over blurring, but it's not. Because all you're doing is the color tone, and the detail is what's going to pull it all back. So let me go ahead and copy my layer from below. So the one that I already did, I mean. Turn that off for a second. And I will turn that off. Turn these off. One moment. All right. So let's say, you know, I did all the retouching. Everything looks good. Okay. Now for the details, what I tend to do is I grab my, where is it? Where's my tools? I moved them around. Healing brush. Oh, where is it? It's around here somewhere. Oh, I haven't headed down here. But just look for your healing brush. Right here, healing brush tool. It's normally set to J. But also your spot healing brush. Just make sure it's the one that you can hold Alt and click an area. That's the most important part, because that's what you want. And what I do is I click, like, say this little blemish here. Little mark here. And I'll just, whoops. That's the other thing to remember. Glad that happened. Come to the top here. See where it says current and below? Make sure it's current layer only. If not, it'll try to copy all the other layers. So we'll click that again. And there you go. And now this you can take hours doing. This is what can take an editor, like I said, all day to work on. I try to streamline it as much as I can and only get the important pieces. You know, and I'll zoom out quite a lot. Sometimes I'll use a second screen where I can see exactly what's going on. And I don't have to worry about it. It's also a great way to get rid of your scar that you so horribly hate, which I think it gives you character. But I know it doesn't match the character. Oh, there you go. You know, you need to remove stray hairs, whatnot. You know, and this is what I do. I will spend probably a good hour, hour and a half just doing this. You know, because the skin is what's going to make the photo pop, make you pop in this case. So, like I said, I already did this. So I'll go ahead and pop that back on. And there you go. You know, I'm not, you know, it's not perfect and I don't want it to be perfect. There's probably a couple places I can get there. But getting rid of the, you know, the ones when you zoom out, you know, you can just spot instantly. You know, that's what I'm trying to avoid. Now, the little trick that I tend to do, just to kind of even a lot out, especially because I'm working on a 5K monitor and I tend to print big, I don't want this sort of, I call it a prickling effect that tends to happen when you're printing. I don't know if you have that issue with comics, not in comics, but in magazines. But I have an issue when I'm printing, you know, large copies, 11 by 17s, 13 by 19s, stuff like that. I will throw in a curves layer, but seriously just kind of does a slight smoothing. You probably can't even see it. Probably look at this highlight right here. And what it does is it's only clipped to the detail layer. And if I boost it up, it'll give you that blurred effect that nobody wants, you know. However, if you reduce it, you know, pretty low, it can be a little more subtle. And all I did with that is did a complete neutral curve. It's basically a gray layer put to normal. And I'm evening out the darks and the lights that are on the detail layer, which, like I said, is really just a gray layer with some highlights and lowlights. Some color in it, but that doesn't really matter too much. And the last thing I do to any of my images is I copy the highlight layer again, and I use it for sharpening. Because that's what it is, it's detail. So if you look at your eyes, here's the before, here's the after. The before, and the after. So it's a great way to pull in some detail and a little bit more interest into one area that you want to look at, which is always the eyes. Sometimes it's the lips. And so like I said, it's a simple thing that works, and I use this all the time on my images. And after this, I'd go into, you know, a dodge a burn layer, and I will usually do. I'm sure Silk has taught you that. Why is this not deleting? Oh, because I have this one locked. There we go. And I'll, like, most people do, I'll make a layer, I'll turn the mode to, actually for faces, I do soft light, just because it works a little bit better, and I'll do a 50% gray layer. And then I paint with black and white at a low opacity. For backgrounds, clothing, hair, other details like that, global, dodge and burning, where I'm dodging burning large areas, I'll do the same thing, but I'll do it on overlay, and I'll have it as a secondary layer. And that's how I start my edit. After that, then I go into, my color tones, stuff like that. Now, it's not really that difficult. It can just be time consuming. And then you have like the fire effects that I add. Let me open up, see if I can open up the other image. There it is. I'll give you a little sneak peek on how I did the fire. Alright, here we go. Now we're at the final image. I haven't fixed your eyes yet. I'm going to do that here in a bit. Which is why I pulled it up. Figured I'd do this with you. So, let me remove some of my coloring layers I use. Which, as you can see, didn't do a whole lot to it. It was just something subtle. But my fire layer is right... all this area. All of this is my fire, essentially. Or light-like fire. So, let me turn these all off. Oops. The only bad thing about working with images, especially the ones you send me, the high quality ones, is they slows my computer down greatly. Okay. So the first thing I added was a flame, because that's what we need, right? And all this is just a stock image, a flame. Put it back to normal. And yeah, it's just fire, and then I cut out, the area where your hand would be. So nothing too crazy about that. Like I said, I just found one that works, and I have a whole log of these that I keep. And so, and then on there, put screen back on. Screen removes all the black, if you didn't know. So does light, and so does color or linear dodge, but screen does it the best. The next thing I add is I have this really cool high-end fire piece that a friend sent me years ago, which is just this amazingly high detailed flame. It actually looks better, obviously at a more bigger file, but like I said, it's just a great fireball. So I put it in the middle just to make it look like an actual fireball, right? Kind of in your hand. And because of all that, these notifications, you gotta have some kind of color. So I added this sort of orangey color. It was more of a red. And then I did a little bit of highlight on top of that to really pop that center, make it almost look like you're coming out of your hand. And then I did a little bit of a global area, popped up the center, so it really shine. Your eye went right to it. And then you got to have a little bit of rebound color, reflective color from, on your face and such. So add a little bit in there, because that light's going to be powerful. It's going to shine. Then the other one I did is I also added some to the cloak, because the cloak's going to have some sort of light. It's dark, so it's not going to have a whole lot, but it's going to have some. Same with your hair as well. So, and the fur on your cloak, or I mean on your sleeve. So, and that's pretty much all I did with the flame. It wasn't a whole lot. It was just a lot of painting with it. Trick to the trade. You know how things work in the world. Composites are not difficult. Like I said, you just got to know, how fire is going to react in a scene. And I may not be completely perfect, but either way, it works for what I'm doing and what I'm getting at. So, anyways, I hope that helped you. I'll send this to you here in a moment. Let me put myself back on my face. There we go. Yeah, I hope this helped you. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll send it to you as a video, so you should be able to figure things out from there. But hope you have fun with it. Enjoy. Tell Silk I said hi and everybody else. Later.